Welcome to the Seacoast Sports Forum, and we have another special edition for you this summer. On July the 9th, Exeter had the 36th annual Exeter Classic Criterium race, and that's what we're going to feature today on the Seacoast Sports Forum. Coach Bill Taylor, and sitting in today for Sam Bruno is our special guest, Ryan Kelly, who is the coordinator of the Criterium.
Yep, one of the co-promoters of the Exeter Classic.
And you, this was the 36th, and you and I spoke the day of the Criterium in July, and I was going to say, this is your, how many that you've been involved with?
Since 2003 or so.
Okay.
So the race has always been run, coordinated with like UNH cycling alum. It benefits a scholarship at UNH. So as I started there, I started getting involved in the race.
I was going to say, so you've been a participant and now you're coordinating the events. You're a busy man. Let's put it this way. This fellow was really busy the day of the race.
Yeah.
To get 3 minutes from you was hard because you were always running.
Yeah, we were talking actually. I didn't watch much of the race because I was running around checking on volunteers and making sure everything was running smoothly.
Well, everything did. We had a beautiful night. I wish you had been there, Coach.
Yeah, I was in Durham with the grandson. So
well, you would have liked this because I was a newbie. I mean, I've seen the race, parts of the race, but I actually was there for both the women's and men's race. And I'll tell you, it was exciting because you and I are NASCAR fans.
Right.
And a lot of similarities there, and we'll get to that during the race. So explain to newbies or people who are unfamiliar with the race what it's about, who it benefits.
Yeah, so the race, what money we do make, which isn't a ton, goes to a scholarship at UNH, and we also did some donating to Annie's Angels. And what a criterium is, we call it a crit racing. It's pretty popular in the U.S., and usually it's a race in a downtown, and we have a pro men and a pro women's race, and so you're some professional riders and some elite amateur riders in the race. And we do an hour of racing, and that means they time the first 5 or 6 laps, and then they show lap cards. So women and men both do an hour. I think the women did like 28 laps and men did, or 28 or 35 laps and men did like 35 or 40 laps. Hectic racing, exciting to watch. We have as you'll see in some of the clips, mid-race sprints for like $100, $200.
Those are called preems.
Called preems, yeah. So we did that for straight up cash. Some of it, we also had a point series for a week-long crit series in New England that we had people sprinting for. And that actually set up some of the big moves in the men's race and the women's race.
And the 2 winners, we've got Regina and Sam.
Yep.
And we'll be watching the video. Well, we'll start off with the women's race first, and we'll talk more about that at the conclusion. So let's get to that video of the women's race.
And we are off and racing. It's our first event of the day, the pro women here at the 36th annual Exeter Classic. And we are going to see who's interested in a little bit of that early race action, trying to make some spice happen early on in the race. 60 minutes of racing going to be happening for our women here today.
And it looks like the Butcher Box team, they're trying to take the initiative, although on the front, it looks like we've got an interesting move now off of the front. We got a couple of riders here with a very significant gap over the field. They're coming through, seeing 18 laps to go. The Butcher Box rider, Jennifer Darmody there on the front. Up there as well, Kristen Reuter of the Bike Red Share Coffee team. So a great move by our leading 4 ladies. So when we say block, what that means is that they're going to deliberately ride just a little bit slower than what they would normally be riding to try and allow that breakaway group to get a little bit more distance between themselves and the main field. So that's going to be the tactic we'd like to see played by the Butcher Box squad, given that they have so many riders up there. I did note that Anya Mechner was on the front once again, trying to chase down that breakaway group. Already our lead vehicle through here. Ladies seeing of 14 laps to go. 14 laps to go for our leaders. Be surprised if we see the entire group make it up to the front three. I think this is going to be certainly the move of the race, and we'll likely see that main group get pretty shattered here over the next couple of laps as they come through the finish now.
Coming through on the front is going to be butcher box rider Jennifer Darmody.
Last gap was 45 seconds, ladies. Our leaders coming through again. It's going to be 12 laps to go for our ladies. 12 laps to go here for our ladies. We're going to get the time gap again. Again, last lap was about 40 seconds. So it's a really interesting tactical play at this point for our ladies.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that for just a minute. For those of you who don't know, a lead-out train, what you see often at the end of a bike race, all the teammates from the same team come together, they band together, use their collective strength to actually be tactical about the finish. So they'll put together a lineup of riders. One person on the front goes as hard as they can. They keep the pace real high, pull off, let the next rider go through. They do the same thing, and they've got their sprinter keeping it fresh in the back.
And the big money going to go to Cleo Dynan and Danielle Ruane and the Centipede squad trying to take that Site Structures Landscape Prix. Well, here come our race leaders now, seeing 4 laps to go.
Out here at the Exeter Classic.
Well, again, the situation here, very interesting tactically, but also very challenging here for our officials. We want to keep everyone safe as possible, so we have a lot of considerations to make. We're going to try to walk you through the finish here. Some weird things might happen. We'll hope that nothing weird's going to happen, but we may have to talk to you about some weird stuff out here with our main field. When they come around again, it's going to be 4 to go for our main field and 3 laps to go for our lead ladies.
All right.
We don't want to cause any confusion out there. Both groups are going to get the bell for 1 lap to go. Our main field is not going to be sprinting for first place, but because of the proximity that our breakaway riders are to our main field, we want to finish that main field early, so they're going to be cut short by 1 lap. So they're going to get the bell for 1 lap to go, and our lead riders are also going to be getting the bell for 1 lap to go.
Going to be getting the bell for 1 lap to go. Finishing a lap early. Ladies, this is lap
1 to go, ladies. 1 to go. 1 to go. 1 to go. 1 to go.
And it's the butcher blocks, black and white colors all over the front of this bike race right now. They may not be picking up first, second, or third if Regina Legg takes the win, but they are still intent on picking up 4th, potentially 5th and 6th. They know how to do a lead out. They are going to show us how it works here tonight.
So everyone's finishing. Everyone's finishing. So this is it. Everyone's finishing. The break too? Everyone's finishing. Well, they're officially getting lapped. The main field's officially getting lapped.
Here comes our lead vehicle. We're going to see 2 sprints here. We want to keep our eyes on the breakaway. So the main field here is sprinting now for 4th place. This is a 4th place sprint. Looks like Butcher Box all over the front.
It is Butcher Box on the front right now, but sprinting right against her. That is going to be riding on a 229. That is going to be Kaya Schmidt. She just took home several national championships at the junior level, and she took 4th place here tonight.
In the back now, Regina Legg. There's Regina Legg. She's going to take the race win there out of the breakaway.
Followed by our Colorado rider. That's going to be Andrea Boutine taking
That was quite a race.
Yeah, it was a great
Quite
race.
Now, strategy for the ladies. Explain what we saw there a little bit.
So we had 3 riders. We talked about a little bit ago. preems, sort of motivating the race. And what happens a lot of times is people will attack after the preem and get something going. That's what happened in the women's race. They, Regina Legg, Andrea Boutine, and Carmody from Butcher Box got off the front. And Regina Legg is from Salem and does the Exeter cycles Wednesday ride. I ride with her a lot. She's super strong. All those women, super strong. Obviously, they're off the front. They got really close to lapping the field. So the Butcher Box rider had 8 other teammates in that group.
Wow.
And Regina and Andrea Boutine had no teammates. So what would happen in that situation if they were to lap the field is the Butcher Box team would see their teammate coming up. They would send 3 or 4 riders to the back. That their teammate would just try to get up there as quickly as possible onto their teammate's wheels, and they would try to bring her right to the front. So it was in the Andrea Boutine and Regina Legg's best interest to not lap the field.
Gotcha.
Even as cool as it would look, and as potentially beneficial as it would be, because they don't have those teammates, they don't have those numbers, they would have to be fighting their way through on their own. Whereas the Butcher Box rider would have a little bit of help getting up to the front.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense to me. It's similar to what going to NASCAR again.
Right.
What happened this week in Loudon, where you have a finish where you get cars just jammed together, and you got to decide: are you going to
try to get through,
do something dangerous and bump somebody to get around them, or are you just going to just sit back and take the win the clean way, hopefully?
Yeah, and even in this too, there's still a lot of elbow bumping, bar bumping, and we'll see in the men's race it gets pretty dodgy in the sprint. Being off the front, winning that way is a little bit harder. Winning anyway is hard, but you're spending a lot of time in the wind, but you can have a cleaner win because you're going to have that road open. As we see in the sprint for Gina, not only was she off the front with those 2 other women the whole time, but when she came across the line, she had opened up a 3 or 4 second gap on them, and that's probably from tan lane, just punching it down that hill and all the way back up.
What's the average speed for the ladies?
The women's race probably averaged 27 miles an hour roughly, hitting, in parts of the average, hitting 40 throughout the course in different spots, especially down descending tan lane or the bottom of Water Street by Swayze. In men's race, probably averaging a little faster, but the top speed is going to be the same, hitting 40 in sprints or in those dips in the course.
What we got is the podium where Regina is acknowledged as winner of the race. Let's take a look at that video too.
Coming in 3rd place for Butcher Box Cycling, Jennifer Darmody. Come on up. Go ahead and take the outside. In 2nd place, coming all the way from Colorado for ALP Cycles Racing, Andrea Boutine. And the queen of New England bike racing, won in Exeter for the 2nd time, Regina Legg, riding for Grey Goat Bullseye Total Media. All right, ladies, arms up. All right, a big congratulations to our women.
I was going to say that's a big accomplishment for all 3 of those ladies. It was a warm night, not a hot night.
Yeah, it wasn't crazy hot. We just raced on Sunday, and I raced. Gina did the men's race actually in Portland, Maine, and it was 100 degrees or whatever. But in Exeter is interesting. We've had years where there's been thunderstorm. We've had the race; they have to pause it for a thunderstorm to roll through. And if it's raining, the race still happens. The only time they will actually call a race is if it's actually lightning.
Now the next race, the men's race. Give us a little setup for dynamics for that race.
So that was a little different because most of the guys in that race, there was really 1 or 2 big teams in the women's race. Butcher Box had a big team. Bike Red Share Coffee had a big team. And there was a bunch of women from the New England Devo squad. And in the men's race, you had Butcher Box has a big men's team, Velocio Northeast, New England Devo, and a couple other squads with 4 or 5 up to 8 guys. So that really changes the dynamics. So if you have that, you're going to have a lot more chasing down of breaks if it's not the right balance. And as we'll see, those numbers really help work out well for Butcher Box.
And we'll see, we got a little special video in the end of the show. We'll show from a different perspective. But right now we want to get the highlights of the men's race, and we'll also have the interview with the winner.
race car coming in. The anticipation is killing me. My adrenaline is pumping. I'm sure it's nowhere near the adrenaline out there in the field, but they're coming in hot. I see Butcher Box all in front. It's Butcher Box. It's going to be Sam Rosenhaus. Sam Rosenhaus taking the win here in Exeter. Sam Rosenhaus for Butcher Box taking the win.
Absolute perfection by Butcher Box that last half of the race. They let it out. They had a plan. They executed the plan. Right there, John Harris of Butcher Box, a fantastic ride. You got to give him huge props for setting that up for Sam Rosenholtz. A fantastic win. Sam is going to be absolutely stoked. He's been looking for this victory for a long time, and they set it up perfectly for him.
Absolutely incredible finish. Getting a crowd shout out.
All right, folks, I'm here with race winner Sam Rosenholtz. Sam, you gotta, well, first of all, congratulations on the race win. It's been a long time coming. How are you feeling right now after a couple of years of just missing it?
This is it. I'm literally a little speechless. This is the one I needed on the trophy shelf for sure.
I got it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, this was a. Oh, that was such a good lead up. Yeah, I'm psyched.
So walk us through. I mean, we were trying to talk about it and explain it to the spectators here, but you know, John Harris, we saw John and we saw Connor and Steve on the front for the last half of the race. How are you managing the communication out there in the field that last half of the race?
Oh, we knew that we had a great shot if it came down to a field sprint, and Johnny, the hero that he is, he was just like, I'll just do this from 5 out. And Toad, I just sat there eating snacks waiting for the fun part, and the boys just over-delivered. It was amazing.
Walk us through that last corner, that last turn off a tan lane into the downhill stretch. Where was your position? Where did you really kick to the line?
We knew that we didn't want to get swarmed there, and the instructions were pin it from the second corner into the hard one, and then just hold it. And that's what we did. We managed to not get swarmed. There was a chasing field, lots of good guys, hungry for that win today, and we held them off.
Well, it was textbook, guys. I've got to give you all credit. It was a fantastic race to watch. Congratulations, Sam.
Thanks, buddy.
It's great to see you on the top step. Sam Rosenholtz, everybody, your 2019 Exeter Classic winner.
Exciting finish, and Sam, a very excited man. That whole team, Butcher Box, was really a cohesive unit in the end of that race.
If you watch the end of the race, you see we did a crowd preem at 4 laps to go, and the crowd preem ended up being like $500, and the guy who won it, Keith Mullally, you see him, no one can test him for the preem because the rider's on his wheel. There's 3 Butcher Box riders on his wheel, so they had started their planning for that win 5 laps prior. And every time they go by, it's 3 Butcher Box in the front for the last 4 laps of the race. They were all over the front of that. So they had it dialed. Sam's done this race many times, and I talked to him later on. He's really excited to have the win.
Well, one thing we saw, and we got a slow motion replay of it, of a close call, last year's winner, Adam Meyerson, you said, right towards the finish line here. We'll take a replay of that.
Yes, there's so Adam Meyerson's rider in the blue.
And whoa, he got slid into.
Yep.
And his foot came free.
Yes, that was Ben Frederick. Ben bounced into him. And this is, a pro race, an elite amateur race. In the front end of that race, you have to, different ways to win a bike race. Winning it through the sprint means you have to be kind of risk-taking and know that sometimes you got to be stable on the bike and you get bounced into. And Meyerson gets bounced into by Frederick, and both of them, they probably between the two of them have 50 years of bike racing experience, and it kept it upright.
And if they had a severe collision there and being where they're going 40 miles an hour plus, probably at that point trying to sprint to the finish, that could have been mayhem.
Yeah, I mean, man, Ben gets his foot on the ground and then kicks it back up. That was really impressive. There's a discipline of cycling called cyclocross, which the bikes look like road bikes, but you're riding them on trails and sort of like a combination of mountain biking and road biking. Ben and Adam are really good at that sport, and they also, a lot of that like handling carries over pretty well to crit racing.
Question. Is there drafting?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the rider if you're on someone's wheel, you're doing 30% less work just from the force of air you're not moving out. And as speed goes up, that It's like a parabolic, it's a relationship. So the faster you're going, the more work it is to move that air out of the way. So in NASCAR, the faster they're going, the more work they have to do to keep those aerodynamics under control. So when you're going 35 miles an hour, it's not the same as going, over 100, but it's still, as you're moving your bike, you feel that. And that's why Butcherbox had, if you look in the last few laps, they have 2 riders in the front, and then Sam Rosenholtz, their sprinter, on their wheel. So Sam's getting, kind of not quite a free ride. He's still pedaling to stay up there, but his teammate John Harris is in the front just eating wind. Those last few laps, Sam's going to have fresher legs. So if Adam Meyerson, last year's winner, wants to move up to that, he has to either take some, aggressive cornering or go out in the wind himself, burn some matches to try to get up to the front.
The one thing I've always been impressed with, having seen NASCAR live, and I'm going to equate it to the bike race.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way that when we talk about it a lot is it's very similar.
The one thing has been, when they get going, how you have to trust the individual next to you on either side of you, that they know what they're doing and they can race at top speeds. And it seemed to me, in watching the finish, the cyclists have to have that same feeling of trust in the person next to them, that they're not going to lose control and cause a massive accident.
Yeah, and you know that the people who are going to be sprinting, if you're strong enough to be in the contention for the final sprint, you're experienced enough, you have worked your way through the ranks to be able to take a few elbows, get knocked into, and stay upright. Even in the back of the field, that happens. At the front, especially at the sprint, when your heart rate's 190 beats per minute and you still are able to stay upright, between knowing these people you've raced with for a while, and you know who are the guys that are constantly in the top 10, they are somebody that I can probably play this one a little close to him. I can get my shoulder in there, and we're both going to stay upright because we know what we're doing.
Well, one thing, we've got an interesting perspective here. Paul Davis, one of the cyclists, had a GoPro on his helmet, and we were able to get that coverage of the race from his perspective. And we're going to roll that video, and Ryan, we're going to leave the microphones up, I guess, so that we can maybe talk over it. It's very interesting to see it from this angle of the race, and you see a couple of things happen here.
You can see down the bottom too, his power meter synced up to his GoPro.
This is interesting, and he's got the GPS showing the track. Now, in case anybody didn't know what the track was, it starts basically right across the street from us here at the town hall on Water Street, goes around the bandstand, onto front. Again, Tan Lane is the big turn going downhill, then back onto Water Street from Tan Lane. That's what you're seeing in the upper right-hand corner. And one thing we noticed here, the racer, I guess it's Kevin Goggin from CCB, he's got a couple of tells here, poker they call them tells, as far as what he's telling the racer behind him, part of his team. There's one place here where he tugs on his left shoe. It's very quick movement, and then another place where you can see him flare his elbow out, I guess to give the pass to his teammate.
So one thing, if depending on if it's called flicking your elbow to flick somebody through, it lets you know that you're pulling off the front. The other thing you can do with your elbow is
right here.
Yep.
So he's going to do the tell on his shoe. Yeah.
So he probably felt that was a little loose, and he wants to throw down a little bit and make sure all his power is getting transferred to his pedals. But not only can you communicate it to your teammates that you want them to pull off, but you put that elbow out, and if you knock somebody, they know that you want some room, and there's Kevin going right up. And Paul had a nice cover on that attack too. Coming up, hugging that inside turn right past the post office. That's a pretty lively attack. You see they're going 32 miles an hour. And now Paul's going to pull through. And you can see the power meter on the bottom, so he's doing 500 and something, 550 watts, which is quite a bit of effort. And there's Kevin flicking his elbow saying, hey, I've launched this attack, I want you to pull through and do some work with me. And you see on the, right around the, what was that on the front? Yeah, coming in, we don't have to speed on there, but you can see his power is down at like 100 and something watts, which means he's kind of soft pedaling through the bottom of that. Now it's back up to 600, 700. as he tries to bridge. Look at that gap he's trying to bridge up to. He's going 36 miles an hour, doing almost 1,000 watts. So keep in mind, a horsepower is 770 watts.
Now, in the group up here at the bandstand, it's going to get interesting. I don't know if it's this lap or the very last lap. It isn't this lap. Okay, it's coming up. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, and you can see on the right-hand side there, that group was Adam Meyerson. So this was, I can't tell what lap we're in right now, but there was, this race people tend to get dropped from this in like groups of 2s and 3s as the pace ramps up. And anytime you see in a bike race the group bunched together, it means they're going slow. And at the extra race, it's strung out most of the time. The only recovery you kind of get is on these descents down tan lane. But even then, you're prepping for the next turn. So this turn's really tricky. Typically, in the past, we've had crashes there just because someone will clip a pedal as they're coming out of it. Or they'll misjudge their speed and go up onto. If you notice back there, there's tons of hay bales in that fencing. They'll misjudge their speed, go up onto the curve into the hay bales.
This is an interesting look of the race. I was saying to Bob, our producer, it'd be nice to have a couple of cameras at different points of the positions in the race.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of, this has become more and more common, racers having GoPros on. For a few years, they didn't allow it just because they had safety concerns, but here we're
If you
coming to the
notice,
bandstand.
now in NASCAR, they are doing
and
the
they're
same
Right
thing.
here, this is we had our crash right here at the town hall. Now, what implications at that point of the race did it have for Butcher Box? Did it change it?
This was early in the race, and I think part of, this racing in general is, also reminds me we need to have more fencing there next year, is that if you're at the front, there's less people to crash in front of you. So like part of the spending energy to stay at the front of the race is safety minded. So if you take that, it's a balance you have to take of, do I want to spend some time in the back and not burn as much energy, but then be susceptible to these kind of things happening? Butcher Box must have either been at the front when that happened or able to get around that, because they had, and also it's the advantage of having 9 guys in the race, because if something happens and you have 4 guys caught behind it and they can't bridge up, the field splits or they are crashed out, then you still have 5 other guys that can go to the front and sit up for Sam.
Were there any injuries in the race as a result of that?
There was just some road rash. I think there was only 2 crashes in the men's race. That one, and then Travis Wold on the New England Devo squad crashed into the church, the PEA church off Tan Lane.
Okay.
Went over that, and he went into the mulch on the side there. But yeah, it was from that aspect, it was pretty safe.
One thing I wanted to ask you the day of the race, and you were a busy man, and trying to get you for a second was hard because you were all over the place like a pinball. When they have a crash, like we just saw, and the bikes are out of commission, I noticed across the street from our position, they had like a pit stop, or pit crew. Explain that a little bit, and how that affects the race.
Yes, there's a couple of shots we have in the live feed of riders with a mechanic holding them on their bike. So if you crash, if you are caught in a crash, go off your bike or have a mechanical, and there's some gray area on mechanical, some riders will think that their own poor planning is a mechanical. Someone's like, oh, this broke. We're like, well, that's because you didn't take care of your bike. We don't count that. But if flat tire, break a chain, whatever, you can go into the pit. We have mechanics from a race service that will fix everyone's bike. They have pit bikes they can ride on. They have a whole size run. So if you actually break your bike, you can get one. And then those racers have 1 lap to get their stuff sorted and back in. And that rule, it's called the free lap rule. And then depending on the length of the course, the officials decide when that is no longer in effect. So as if it happens with 2 laps to go, you can't get a free lap. It's just you either have to chase back on or you're just out. Just to kind of take that out of the mess at the end. And so yeah, most racers, I think we had some riders with a flat tire go in there and get a real change. Those guys, I think almost all of them just got back up, got going, because a crash like that, as much as it hurts with a road rash, equipment-wise, you're probably going to be okay, because the bike just slides out and it's just going to be road rash on your leg and your arms.
Now, back to the crash again. So nobody was hurt, thankfully. I mean, like you say, just minor scrapes and bruises. The bikes, how many started and how many finished?
I think we had over 100 starters, like 115, 120, And I was actually looking at the results earlier. I think it was like 70 placed finishers, and then so 30-something DNFs. And some of those people that were placed may not have finished in the main group. They could have gotten dropped and then placed by
Right.
the officials. But yeah, it's like we said, it's a pro men's 1, 2, 3 race. You'll see that on some of the graphics, and that means in bike racing, when you start out as a Category 5 racer, and the more results you have, the better results you have, you upgrade to a Category 4, 3, 2, 1. So this race is full-time pros and elite amateurs. So there's a pretty substantial spectrum of fitness.
So Coach and I can't get on our Schwinns and try to get in the
We
race
can do the
next
Category
year.
5 race.
Oh, all right. We'll be Category 5 and work our way up to
Do people get reclassified at the end of the season?
Yeah, so actually mid-season it happens. I had a rider who emailed me. He registered, but he was a Category 4. And I'm like, and so the registration system sends me a notification that's happened. And I'm like, well, he's like, I'm probably gonna get my upgrade next week. So I'm like, well, when that happens, just send me the information so we can do that. Yeah, it happens mid-season. So basically when depending on what category you're upgrading, you score points based on the size of the field and that kind of thing. And then the officials, if you have the right points in the right races, they upgrade you.
Do people go down?
You have to request for it. Okay. So like I used to race a lot more, I used to race quite a bit, and I do a little bit of racing now, but I don't want to be in a certain category, so I actually downgraded. So when I actually am racing, I'm competitive instead of just like on the back of the group dying.
Mm-hmm.
This year, the race moved from June to July.
Yep.
Is it going to stay in July?
I think so. So what we had, there was 2 riders in these blue jerseys that said Verge, and we talked about on the feed, this is part of New England Crit Week. Mm-hmm. There's a series of races in New England this week, and we're part of that, and we moved to avoid a conflict with other races nationally. Mm-hmm. And it helped our registration numbers because we had some of the, like the Butcher Box team probably wouldn't have been there had we had it at the old schedule because they would have been at a different series of races.
Okay.
So we shifted that to kind of line up with the national calendar. And next year Exeter will be back probably the same week in July. And then the other races we were with, and we'll probably try to add some races into that too.
So how many race schedule do you have?
For that series?
Yeah.
So that series, New England Crit Week was, it was just 3 races for that particular series. But in New England, there's races like Exeter. There's one in Concord on August 4th.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said there was one in Portland.
Yep, there was one in Portland, Maine just this past weekend. So that was July 21st or something. But in New England, there's probably 50 or 80 races, somewhere. Maybe a road race that's going to be like a 60-mile race. It's an undertaking to run. It's an expensive event to put on, so promoters have to balance, what the demand is and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of other events too that are kind of parallel, like a lot of big gravel rides that aren't quite as competitive, but still have a lot of the same people and they're having fun.
Sponsorships. You had sponsors. Let's give them a shout out here.
So Exeter Cycles has worked with the race for as long as the shop's been there. That's where my bike was in there 2 days before the race, getting something fixed. And, they put on a Wednesday night group ride. They have a Monday group ride, I think a Thursday ride. Gina rides from there. A lot of the guys in the Volusia Northeast team ride out of that shop. Mm-hmm. Ted King, who raced Tour de France, has been in that shop. We also had D Squared sponsor us. Their coffee shop running the course. It's kind of like the official coffee shop of the race. Mm-hmm. They've been working with us since they opened, I think 7 years ago. Unitil has worked with us for quite a long time. La Festa Brick and Brew is in Dover, and the Exeter Classic is sort of connected to UNH, and La Festa has promoted or sponsored UNH and bike events since they opened in like 2002. So Rob La Festa has been and if you go in there, you'll see like swimming, like every kind of sport and like community thing in Dover and Seacoast, New Hampshire, they're involved in kind of that kind of stuff. Las Olas has helped us a ton with volunteer food. So all our volunteers have we get burritos and salsa for all our volunteers. So that is like the number one thing that we get.
My man Matt.
Yeah, the number one thing the one that we get for we advertise volunteering. We advertise it as come eat free burritos and stand around and watch a bike race. So that's kind of how we get our volunteers in.
I like it.
And we had a lot of support for the volunteer raffle. I think all of our volunteers went home with a prize that came to the raffle party. Velocio is a apparel company that helped out with that, and some other a new bike shop, Oyster River Cycle and Sport in Durham's helped out with some of the volunteer stuff. So a lot of local people, and the town itself, like every restaurant I went into to check in on, and like it's so easy to, everyone so enjoys it, and I think a lot of the racers do a fair amount of like stopping in and shopping, and people that come up from Boston enjoy it because they get to see a different town, and it's not the same old thing. Some crits are in like maybe an office park where it's easier to run. It's harder to run it in Exeter just because we can only do 2 races because of the timing, so it's a different sort of thing, but the benefit is you have a place to hang out at, and you can get dinner, you can go to Ova or Capital Time, you can eat and watch the race for some of the racers.
Well, I was going to say, you're going to be a busy man coming up to the 2020 race.
Yes, 2020 we always can do a better job with advertising and promoting locally, so we're going to try to do a better job of that. We're going to shift, I think we're going to do the men's race first next year and then the women's race second. And that'll be cool because whenever that happens, the men's racers get really excited because usually they finish their race and then they have to go home. Because they don't have anything to do, races are done, but now they'll finish their race, they can go, there's 120 guys that are going to go get something to drink, something to eat, and they can watch a bike race and actually have that chance, but usually they finish and they're done.
Yeah.
So it'll be a cool change.
This year was a first for Exeter TV, Channel 98. Bob and the crew, I thought, did a great job trying to bring it to people live, and of course it's on YouTube if people want to go watch the races, plural. They're on YouTube and their Facebook page, and it was fun for me to go down there and be part of it. It was like I say, an experience for me. I've seen the race from afar. It's just being a spectator. I wasn't a participant as such, but it was fun just getting that perspective, watching what you guys go through, putting it all together, and we had a great night for racing.
Yeah, it's also great to be able to see a whole race from start to finish. So if someone's coming to spectate, it's great to be able to see like the whole women's race or the whole men's race, because you can see it play out, and you can see, and the announcers do a great job of explaining, attack has happened, this is what's happened, and you can see the racers work together, and even if you're spectating, and you probably heard this, you can hear people in the break yelling at each other and talking and saying either annoyed or happy or whatever, or encouraging each other, because they're going by you at 30 miles an hour, and it's from here, it's like 3 feet away. And that's something about the sport that I think you don't get in a lot of sports. If you go to a basketball game, even if it's a local game, you're still going to be on bleachers a little bit away. You still have that kind of hearing of the people playing and that kind of thing. But the fact that they're going by you at 30 and they're very close to you, and you can sort of see their faces working, and they're probably going to sweat on you. It's a really interesting kind of intimate sport in that way.
How does the crowd in Exeter compare to other areas?
It's great. We do a crowd preem, and that this year a crowd preem is when I went out and yelled at people to give us money.
That's what he was running around. Believe me, he was busy. A busy man.
And Exeter Cycles helped out a ton with that. They gave us a bag of water bottles and some drink mix from noon to like encourage people. Say, give me $1, I'll give you a water bottle. And the crowd preem is kind of a way that you can judge how engaged the spectators are. And we got like I think $500 and almost $600 from the crowd, and that's just people that were like gave $1, gave 25 cents. So a lot of people were engaged. And we actually took that crowd preem, and half of it went to the winner of it, and half of it went to Annie's Angels. So it's not a ton of money for Annie's Angels, but if you don't know that organization, it's not a ton of money on paper, but to the people that receive the benefits of that, it's really helpful. And it's a little thing that we can do that just kind of helped out a little bit. But that's a nice metric. And other races I've worked at or been involved in don't have a crowd preem or don't have that. And the crowd is super friendly, and like they like talking to the racers. And I think because the races happen for so long and the town's been so welcoming for so long, it just kind of begets good involvement.
I think we should give a shout out, having watched that, to not just the racers, but to the town of Exeter.
Oh, it's great.
For shutting down the roads and, enabling you to put on that event.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I mean, between this and then also the concert series, the bandstand, there's so much happening. I think the use of downtown has been great this last summer. The last 2 years, I think it's getting better and better. And we worked with the highway department. Jason Rucker at the highway department was so helpful in we understand that it's a big impact to say, hey, we're going to close downtown for 2.5 hours on Tuesday night. And his input and the police department's input and their work to make that as smooth as possible was great. It wouldn't have, if that didn't go smoothly, we wouldn't be welcome back, and we wouldn't want to be back because we wouldn't feel comfortable imposing. But yeah, Exeter, between the businesses and everyone who lives on the course, kind of putting up with the chaos of it. But also, I spoke to people that lived in the building block behind the town hall, and they were, like, oh yeah, the bike races tonight. Okay, I love seeing it, and just being really thankful that they essentially welcome us into their living room. We're right there.
Well, we do this thing at the very end of our program we call the 2-minute drill. And what it boils down to is if we have anything we want to throw on the table. I'll start with you.
Throw on the table for
Anything.
anything?
You want to shout out about next year's race?
I want to shout out about pavement. Man, the pavement on the course, I'd say 80% of the course is pavement that's new from like 2015, and then they paved by the post office this year. And I live in Exeter, so I'm walking around town with my daughter a lot. I'm pretty in tune with all the goings-ons, and not related to the race, but also the Lincoln Street project. I can't wait to see that be finished. I mean, I'm less concerned about traffic things, but it's going to look great when that's done.
It will.
And living in Exeter for the last couple of years, it's been so great to see. Every year, there's always an improvement somewhere in town. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, special place. Coach. your 2-minute
Well,
drill.
you know what? We just finished the Loudon NASCAR race. And for those of you who have never been, it is, I think, the advertisements for it sometimes do it a disservice, because the mindset of a lot of people, it's a bunch of drunks going and watching an automobile race, and that is far, far from the truth. I mean, yes, are there people drinking adult beverages? Yes, there are. Do you see many people being inebriated? No, you don't. Are there? I'm sure there are, just like at a football game or a basketball game or any other athletic event. But I think, to give you an idea, the one thing television doesn't do, and even this, is do a good job of showing speed. To get an idea of how fast the bicycle racers are, the cyclists are going, you have to see it.
You have to feel the wind move past
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
Yeah, be part of it.
And, you know, it's the same thing at Loudon. To get an idea of how fast those cars are going, you need to get there. The other thing about it, and you already talked about the cyclists and how, you know, I'm sure they'll be open to talking to fans before the race or to spectators. The same thing happens if you get a pit pass and you go to the automobile race, and you can go, now you don't really talk too much to the drivers. They're kind of in their own meetings and everything else, but you talk to the pit crew. And I mean, we had so many interesting conversations with members of the pit crews over the years. It's just a fun, it can very much be a family event. It's a fun place to go. So
It's a hot place, especially
it
yesterday
is.
or
It
the other
is.
day. Yeah,
For
this
me, I've had to stop going because of the heat. I just can't sit outside in the sun,
Yeah, that was a
no
big-
matter
that was a
what I'm
big
wearing
maker.
for head covering anymore.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. If they ever change over to a night race, I'd be there in a second.
Yeah, that was.
But I can't do the day races.
Do you ever make it to Epping?
I haven't gone to the local tracks,
Yeah.
no.
And that's where with bike race, I think where you have the accessibility of the athletes, I feel like, and I haven't been to the Epping track in a long time, but that's another place where if you like the sport, if you like motorsport, if you like bike racing, the accessibility changes when you bring it down a little bit, but there's people that are just still as passionate as anyone else about that.
And see, where I grew up, it sounds the same idea. I grew up in Seacoast, Mass, and they had a speedway there, and I used to go every Saturday. Every Saturday night you went to the Seacoast Speedway, and it was fun.
It's a little bump and grind up in Loudon. And who did you pick for the race?
My prediction didn't pan out, yes, this year.
yeah,
Kyle Busch.
My boy, Kevin Harvick.
Kevin Harvick came through.
And we went to the races a few years back, and we were in pit row, and I remember at the time I think it was Kozlowski you had picked that year. And we were walking by the cars, and I tapped on Harvick because there's my man right there. And it came down to the final lap, and if you remember, Harvick ran out of fuel and kind of had to coast over the finish line, but ahead of him was Brad Keselowski. So we're 1-1.
There you go.
1-1. All right, the 2-minute drill for me today, I just want to say a thank you, a shout out to a few people. Sandy Parks from the Exeter High School Alumni Association, thank you very much for supporting us on their Facebook page and getting us some views, because it's very important. That's what we're doing for it, to get people familiar with what's going on here in the Seacoast, in Exeter, and I thank Sandy and the Exeter High School Alumni Association. Thank you to the Exeter Criterium group, because you folks gave us a lot of views on YouTube and the Seacoast, and that's another thing I have to do. The Seacoast Sports Forum on Facebook, okay, you can view it there, the program. We have seacoastsportsforum.extv at Google, right? That's at Google, yeah. I keep getting these all confused in my head, but yeah, that's seacoastsportsforum.extv at Google, if you'd like to get in touch with us. And again, if you have one of these, you can take video of anything like the race we just saw, an event that you're at with your son or daughter or family member. Send us some video to those sites. The other is Seacoast Sports 1. That's our Twitter page. So we got all that covered. Now we've got through summer, or just about, and then the next show will be heading into fall.
So I guess we're skipping August.
No, but August football season.
That is the beginnings, that's correct.
The Patriots are reporting to camp. They're getting serious now.
They start Thursday.
Yeah, and then the Blue Hawks and the local teams will be starting, the high schools will be getting underway soon, and we'll be covering that. Sam will be back with us next time. We'll get Roger Brown with us here, and we'll talk football. So football and fall sports will be on our next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. For Sherm Chester, for Bill Taylor, and our special guest today, Ryan Kelly, thank you for joining us. It was a lot of fun as we reviewed the Exeter Criterium for 2019. We'll see you again next time.